My younger sister wanted to take out an online loan to attend her idol's fan signing event. I warned her against getting involved with online loans, telling her that once she started, there would be no turning back. After much persuasion, she finally gave up on the idea. 4 years later, her idol's dating scandal broke, and the idol's girlfriend turned out to be the very online friend who had invited my sister to that fan signing event. She blamed me for ruining her chance with the idol. When I wasn't around, she tampered with the fireworks I designed. I burned to death in the fireworks warehouse. When I opened my eyes again, my sister stood before me, excitedly talking about meeting her idol. Next week is my idol's third debut anniversary. I'm finally going to meet him, Viola excitedly announced during dinner. Mrs. Chen frowned. You just graduated this year. Your job isn't stable yet. Where will you get the money? You've already spent my salary for this month. I don't have any more to give you. Viola's eyes crinkled into a smile as she opened a lending app on her phone. I never said I wanted to borrow from you, Mom. Look how convenient it is now. You can even borrow money online. It's approved in a flash. Mrs. Chen stared at the phone, her brows still furrowed. She wasn't tech-savvy, but she instinctively felt something was amiss. There's no such thing as a free lunch. Yet, she had always spoiled Viola, never refusing her decisions, so she turned to me. Anya, is this reliable? Hearing Mrs. Chen's voice, I suddenly trembled, jolted awake from the searing pain of the fire. In my previous life, my younger sister was obsessed with a male idol, even planning to borrow money to attend a fan signing. I had warned her that online loans carried unpredictable consequences and that she shouldn't spend money before earning it. After much convincing, she finally listened, returning the event ticket, plane ticket, and hotel room and repaying the loan. Although she suffered a small loss, thankfully, the amount wasn't significant and our family could cover it for her. Unexpectedly, 4 years later, her idol's dating scandal broke. The girl he was exposed with was the very online friend who had invited my sister to that fan signing. In a flash, her online friend became her sister-in-law, who then brazenly flaunted their love online. My sister couldn't bear it. She cried for 3 days and 3 nights at home, pointing at me and screaming, "It's all your fault. If you hadn't stopped me from going to that fan signing, I would be by his side right now." Mrs. Chen joined in, soothing her. "That's right, it's all because you meddled. Otherwise, we'd have a rich son-in-law now." I had been working all day, utterly exhausted, too weary to argue with them. I simply said, "Don't cause unreasonable trouble." I never imagined my sister would harbor such resentment, secretly entering my warehouse and tampering with the fireworks I designed. That night, I was burned alive in that very warehouse. "Anya, why aren't you saying anything?" "No response?" Mrs. Chen asked again. I looked straight at her. She always saw her biological daughter as everything, ready to hand over her entire fortune to Viola. And whenever anything went wrong, it was always blamed on me. If trouble arose, all faults were mine. "I don't know," I said. "I've never used those things, I'm not very clear on them. If I could start over, I'd like to see what your outcome would be without me meddling in your affairs." Mrs. Chen softened her voice. "Even your sister isn't clear." "So is this really unreliable? Don't get scammed." Viola glared. "What do you know, Mom? That place partners with proper banks. My friends have borrowed from them too. You just have to pay on time every month. It's legal and legitimate. Otherwise, how could they lend money?" After being scolded, Mrs. Chen chuckled. "I really don't understand, dear. Explain it to me and I'll understand. If it's legal and proper, then it's fine. I've already borrowed the money. Now I just have to wait for my tran to buy the tickets." Viola lifted her phone, playing her idol's video on repeat. After going to her room, she still mumbled, "What should I wear to look pretty then? No, I need to find a makeup artist to make me truly beautiful. So when I meet him, he won't be able to forget me." She closed the door, the sound muffled behind it. Mrs. Chen leaned towards me again. "Anya, tell me honestly, is this really reliable?" I smiled faintly. "I've never used it. How would I know? Can't you just look it up online, Mom? You're her sister, after all." I mumbled to myself, "And you're her mother. Why don't you look it up yourself?" I rubbed my forehead and stretched. "Mom, I'm so tired. I've been working overtime constantly lately. Viola isn't a child anymore. You all decide for yourselves." Mrs. Chen was displeased but found it awkward to say anything more. The next evening after work, I met Viola downstairs, struggling with a pile of express delivery boxes. When she saw me arrive home, she quickly said, "Quick, quick, quick, help me carry a few." In my previous life, she was often like this, asking me to help her pick up packages. She'd say, "a few," but in reality, she'd shove the entire load into my arms while she'd carry the two lightest ones, happily singing all the way home. How could I let her take advantage of me so easily again? I leaned against the wall, shaking my head. "No, my head feels a bit dizzy." Viola looked at me suspiciously. "Why do you always get dizzy whenever I ask you to do something? What are you faking?" She took a couple more steps, then turned back. "Hurry up, take these two. I really can't carry any more." I picked up the smallest one on top, and she immediately urged me to take two more. "What's the point of just one?" Just as I reached for the second one, the goods fell to the ground before I could get a firm grip. I sighed. "My hand got pinched at work. It hurts like hell." Viola glared at me. "You did that on purpose, didn't you?" "No, I didn't. Didn't I always help you with packages before?" "It's just that I really don't feel well today." I feigned shaking my hand a few times, then covered my mouth and coughed twice. She looked at me from head to toe, finally saying nothing more, and staggered on. That evening, Viola spent a long time unpacking her numerous packages. Besides several magazines and posters featuring her idol, Jian Ming, she had also bought a pile of designer clothes and high-end cosmetics. Half an hour later, the house was packed with goods. When I went out to get a glass of water, I had to struggle past dozens of boxes. Viola held up a poster. "Oh my God, he's incredibly handsome. No, I have to support him more. I'll buy 50 more copies." Mrs. Chen, cooking in the kitchen, poked her head out at the sound. "Aren't all those posters the same? Why buy so many?" Viola, while admiring the magazine, rolled her eyes. "It's useless to explain to you, Mom. Industry insiders look at sales figures. The more I buy, the more it boosts his sales, and he'll get more opportunities for photo shoots later." I could only shake my head. These words reeked of a scam. I had warned her before, "Don't believe those people online. Buying one copy is enough support. Those are all brainwashing tactics. No matter how much you buy, that money won't even reach the idol." But this time, I wasn't going to waste my breath on her. After all, it wasn't my money. She could support him as much as she wanted. A few days later, Viola actually brought home a whole box of magazines. Mrs. Chen grumbled to herself, "Why buy so much? The house is going to burst." She glanced at me. "Why don't you say anything to her?" I replied. "I have things to do. If you think it's unreasonable, you should talk to Viola yourself." Before Mrs. Chen could finish her sentence, I slammed the door shut. She had no choice but to drop her hands and sigh. That weekend, Mrs. Chen cut some fruit and placed it in front of Viola. "Viola, dear, you said you wanted to meet your idol. Have you bought the tickets yet?" Viola rolled her eyes. "How many times do I have to tell you? The tickets went on sale days ago and I already secured mine. Mom, you're getting old and forgetful, but it's good that I got them. When you go, remember to tell me beforehand and I'll help you pack." In college, whenever Viola traveled, Mrs. Chen always packed her bags. But this time, she waved her hand. "No, I'll prepare it myself. You wouldn't know what I need to bring. If I miss anything, I'll be utterly devastated." That evening, Viola, wearing an oversized t-shirt, spun around in the living room. "Mom, look, this shirt is the same style as Jian Ming's. Isn't it nice?" Mrs. Chen came closer to examine it, feeling the fabric. "I don't know if it's nice, but the fabric feels good." Viola smiled smugly. "Of course. This shirt costs over 5,000 yuan. How could the fabric be bad?" Mrs. Chen was alarmed. "Good heavens, my whole month's salary isn't even 5,000. Where did you get the money to buy this?" Viola crossed her arms, a nonchalant expression on her face. "Borrowed it, of course." "Borrowed? You can borrow that much? And can you pay it back?" Mrs. Chen asked anxiously. Viola remained calm. "It's an installment plan. If I borrow 5,000, it's just over 500 a month." "I'll just pay it back then. What's the big deal?" The fan signing was 2 days away. Viola packed her luggage, preparing to travel halfway across the country to meet her idol. Mrs. Chen looked at the pile of bags, large and small. "It's only for 3 or 4 days. Why are you bringing so much?" Viola patted her suitcase. "I'm bringing over a dozen outfits. I have to look absolutely beautiful when I meet him, right? And I have my camera, too, to take pretty pictures." Mrs. Chen gasped. "A camera? When did you buy a camera?" Viola smugly pulled out a DSLR camera from her bag. "I just received it yesterday. I even told the shop to send it quickly, worried it wouldn't arrive in time." Mrs. Chen was stunned. "That must have cost a lot of money, didn't it?" "Not that expensive, just 20 or 30,000. Viola replied casually. That statement almost made Mrs. Chen faint on the spot. She nervously paced back and forth in the living room. "Viola, dear, I still feel like something isn't right about this. I'll find a way to get you the money. Please, use that money to pay it back." Viola frowned, then, after thinking of something, she smiled. "All right, then transfer the money to me, Mom." Viola's absence for a few days gave me a rare period of peace and quiet. I no longer had to hear those sweet, fast-paced songs on repeat, nor see those giant posters. Every time I stepped out the door, it felt like the whole world had become silent. Learning from the previous time, I spent a little extra money to renovate the storage warehouse. I installed additional door locks and used high-quality thermometers and hygrometers that could monitor in real time. In a week, there would be a fireworks design competition. The winner would have the honor of igniting their fireworks at an upcoming performance. I hadn't won last time, but this time I was determined to win. A few days later, Viola returned elatedly, practically flying. She hummed the theme song of the male idol group. Mrs. Chen ran out to the residential complex gate to greet her. "With all that luggage, did you have fun?" Viola beamed. "Of course." Jian Ming is even more handsome in real life than in his pictures. When he signed, he stood so close to me and even complimented my beauty. Even now, thinking about it, I feel like I'm still dreaming. Mrs. Chen staggered, pulling the luggage one step at a time. Viola, however, only carried a tiny bag with no intention of helping. I suddenly recalled a time in my previous life when I told her, "Mom is getting old, don't you think you should lend a hand? Can't you be a little more understanding?" Viola's expression immediately changed, and she glared at me. "What does that have to do with you?" Mrs. Chen, with a darkened face, walked past me. "Why are you speaking so harshly? So what if I carry luggage for my daughter? On what grounds do you say Viola isn't understanding?" My kindness was unrewarded. I didn't want to bother with it anymore. I scrolled through my phone, looking at rental information. I guess I'll just endure a few more days. Viola still seemed to be caught up in the atmosphere of the fan signing, constantly admiring her lipstick and souvenirs. Every now and then, she'd hug her phone and giggle foolishly, which even Mrs. Chen found strange. During dinner, Mrs. Chen asked, "Viola, you're not seeing a boyfriend, are you? You're always on your phone, chatting with someone." Viola raised her eyebrows and spoke cryptically, "Guess, Mom." A few days later, however, she couldn't hold back anymore. She pulled Mrs. Chen's hand and showed off her contact list. "I got Jian Ming's contact information," she said, her voice filled with excitement. Mrs. Chen was astonished. "How did you manage that?" Viola clutched her chest with a starstruck expression. "That day, there weren't many people at the airport. I pretended to bump into him by chance. Then he asked if I wanted to exchange contacts. It was like a dream. He must have feelings for me, right?" I stopped dead at the doorway. In my previous life, Jian Ming had been exposed multiple times for secretly contacting fans, so getting his contact information wasn't that difficult. I glanced at Viola. Not only that, Jian Ming had often wheedled expensive gifts from fans. I wondered if Viola could afford that. From then on, Viola frequently traveled to other cities to see Jian Ming off or pick him up at the airport. This severely impacted her job. She had just graduated and was in her internship period. After only a few days, she was fired. Mrs. Chen was worried. That evening, she came into my room and said, "Anya, your sister has been having such a hard time lately, and now she's lost her job. Can you think of a way to help her find an easy job, preferably one with many days off each month so she can continue to pursue her idol?" I just rolled my eyes inwardly. If there was such a good job, I'd want it myself. Mrs. Chen added, "If not, even lower requirements are fine. Less pay is okay too." I picked up a book beside me and covered my face, not bothering to say anything more. I was barely holding onto my own job. I had won the previous fireworks design competition. Lately, I'd been swamped preparing for the upcoming performance. Mrs. Chen, unable to get through to me, gave up on that idea. Viola, on the other hand, barely cared about losing her job. She even felt more free to pursue Jian Ming. Every day, besides going to the airport, she'd sit at her computer photoshopping pictures, occasionally chatting with Jian Ming. But recently, their conversations had noticeably decreased. Viola was sad. "He hasn't been replying to my messages lately." Mrs. Chen comforted her. "He's a celebrity, dear. Being busy is normal. Maybe he's just too busy to reply right now." Viola nodded. "Mom makes sense." A few days later, she returned from the airport, her face completely darkened. She threw her camera onto the sofa. "That bitch, no wonder she always dressed so beautifully. Turns out it was all to seduce Jian Ming, such a fake, manipulative woman." Her curses were very harsh. Mrs. Chen came out of the bedroom. "What's this about a manipulative woman?" Viola fumed. It's that fan who used to go to send-offs and pickups with me. We used to follow Jian Ming together. But the day before yesterday, I found out they had private contact. Jian Ming has been chatting with her all this time. He hasn't sent me a single message for almost a week. Viola gritted her teeth, full of bitter resentment. I happened to be walking through the living room. Mrs. Chen looked at me, pleading for help. Anya, tell me, what should we do now? I turned and saw Viola also looking at me with an expectant gaze. I awkwardly shrugged. I don't know. I don't follow idols like you do. She snorted coldly, full of disdain. Knew it. Asking you is useless. Mom, don't ask her anymore. She's only 4 years older than me. What could she possibly know more than me that you keep asking her? From a young age, Viola had always treated me this way. When she used to do poorly in school, my father even made me tutor her during holidays. But she never took it seriously, even thinking I was stealing her freedom, preventing her from watching TV or playing games. Since then, she had hated me for a long time. When father was alive, she still showed some politeness towards me. But after father's death, in her eyes, I had no value whatsoever. I was forever an outsider in this house. Mom, have you gotten your salary this month? Transfer 3,000 yuan to me. Viola's voice rang out, and I subtly curled my lips into a cold smile. She's bringing trouble upon herself. I want to see how long she can hold out. After several days of continuous overtime, I ran into Viola again one evening. I asked, "Going to the airport again?" She mumbled a yeah. Her spirits seemed much better. Her idol must have sweet-talked and appeased her again. Viola pushed open the door and entered the house, humming, her face beaming. Perhaps she couldn't find anyone else to share her good news with. She glanced at me and said, "Jian Ming said goodbye to me today. He even messaged me tonight to ask if I'd arrived home safely and told me to be careful. He definitely has feelings for me," she continued. "Let's see if that girl Cammy dares to show off again this time." Cammy was a female fan who, in my previous life, had been exposed for dating Jian Ming. I twitched the corner of my mouth slightly, saying nothing. My indifferent reaction displeased Viola. She asked again, "Do you think he likes me?" I mumbled vaguely, "Maybe." "What do you mean, maybe? He only said goodbye to me. He didn't even bother to look at anyone else." I blurted out a question. "How do you know? Maybe he was looking at you." Viola was furious, about to explode. Of course, I saw it clearly. He was looking straight at me. I suddenly realized I had asked a superfluous question. Who he looks at is none of my business. I said indifferently, "Well then, he must really be special to you." Viola was immediately delighted. "Right? I knew it. A few days ago, I even gave him a watch worth nearly 100,000 yuan. He definitely remembers me." Although I was accustomed to Viola's bottomless greed, hearing about the nearly 100,000 yuan watch, my heart still sank. Mrs. Chen's monthly salary was only about 4,000 yuan. How many years would it take to make up for this loss? I looked towards Mrs. Chen's room. The lights were off. Viola mumbled, "Why is Mom asleep?" I was still planning to ask her for money. "Mom only transferred a few thousand to me a few days ago. What good is that? Do you have any money?" "Lend me a little, I'll pay you back next month." With her current spending habits, lending her money was like throwing it into a bottomless pit. I chuckled. "I just bought a batch of raw materials a few days ago, and there's a fireworks performance coming up. Where would I get money for you?" Viola's face darkened. "I knew it. Relying on you never gets anything done. Fine, I'll just borrow it myself then." 2 days later, I received a phone call. "Hello, may I ask if you are Ms. Viola's older sister?" "Yes, who is this?" "Ms. Viola borrowed money from our platform. Her payment is currently overdue. Whoever borrowed it should be found. What does that have to do with me? Don't call me again." I decisively hung up. Immediately after, Mrs. Chen called. "Anya, I just received a call saying Viola's loan is overdue. What happened? Is it serious?" At that moment, I was at the fireworks factory discussing work, so I deliberately moved my phone to a noisy spot and said, "Mom, I'm not very clear on it. Why don't you try calling Viola? I've called so many times, but I can't get through." I pretended to shout loudly from a distance, then covered the receiver. "What was that? Anyway, I can't help. I'm really busy right now. Let's talk about it when I get home." I hung up. Mrs. Chen called many more times. I put my phone on silent mode. I only got home late that night. Mrs. Chen was sitting on the sofa, her face full of worry. "You're home. What are we going to do about Viola's situation now?" I yawned. "I don't know. Didn't she say she could pay it back when she borrowed it?" Mrs. Chen frantically paced the living room. "She said she could pay it back, but the lender says it's overdue and they're threatening to sue. Someone even threatened to come to our house this afternoon. What should we do now?" Where am I going to find that much money? I was both tired and sleepy, too weary to argue with her. Just as I was about to go to my room, Mrs. Chen pulled me back. Viola is your sister, can't you care a little? I looked into her eyes, helpless, and pulled out my phone to call Viola. The moment the call connected, Mrs. Chen immediately looked at me with an expectant gaze. Viola's voice came through the phone. Why are you calling in the middle of the night? Say what you need to say quickly. I said calmly, Mom has something to tell you. I handed the phone to Mrs. Chen. Mrs. Chen hesitated slightly. I knew she wanted to use me to call Viola because she couldn't bear to speak harshly to her herself. She didn't take the phone, so I gently shook it as a reminder. Mom, don't you have something to say to Viola? Hurry up, it's late and everyone's tired. Viola heard me and urged, What is it? Just say it. Mrs. Chen weakly asked, I received a call today saying your loan payment is overdue. Viola was annoyed. I know, so what are you going to do? What do you mean, what am I going to do? I don't have any money anyway. I'll figure out how to ask Jian Ming for some. Mrs. Chen worried. Could he really give you money? Viola chuckled faintly. Do you know where I am right now, Mom? I'm at a hotel. Jian Ming is lying right next to me. After saying that, she hung up. The next morning, the hot search was full of keywords like Jian Ming secretly met fan, Jian Ming stayed overnight at hotel, and so on. Paparazzi had taken photos of him entering a hotel with a female fan. It was Viola. The internet erupted. Some cursed Jian Ming, some fans collectively turned their backs, and not a few attacked Viola. Mrs. Chen tried desperately to contact her, but couldn't get through for days. Instead, her phone continuously received debt collection messages and calls. I had already blocked over a dozen numbers. Things got so serious that Viola even made it to the local news. Neighbors started gossiping behind our backs. That girl truly doesn't know how to conduct herself. So young, yet already involved in the entertainment industry. That world is full of arrogant people. How could they respect ordinary folk like us? She's probably just a plaything. Mrs. Chen heard them and rushed out to argue. How dare you badmouth my daughter behind her back? What does it have to do with you if my daughter is in a proper relationship? You're just jealous that my daughter found someone handsome and rich. Several middle-aged women argued downstairs for over an hour until a second-floor neighbor who worked the night shift called the police to report the noise. Only then did it quiet down. Online, public opinion grew increasingly tense. Jian Ming's company issued a statement saying he was currently single and would sue those who engaged in personal attacks. This statement was clearly false and enraged fans. That evening, an internet user named Cami posted a complete list of all the gifts she had given Jian Ming, totaling several million yuan. She also released screenshots of their chats, including video calls and numerous voice calls. The hot search exploded. Immediately after, Cami continued to post chat logs with Viola, clearly confirming that she and Jian Ming had been involved, even attending a memorial service together. The situation grew increasingly grave. Mrs. Chen still couldn't contact Viola. Her phone was being bombarded by debt collection calls, but she didn't dare turn it off, afraid of missing a call from her daughter. 2 days later, Viola returned home, covering her face and crying. She cried and cursed, "That wretched Jian Ming. How much money have I wasted on him? He just said it's over, and it's over." Mrs. Chen rushed over, alarmed. "What do you mean, dear? Jian Ming doesn't want you anymore?" Viola choked back tears. "Yesterday, I only borrowed 50,000 yuan from him." His expression immediately changed. He said he had no money and kicked me out. He says he doesn't have money. He even said his company was going to drop him because of me, and his future was ruined because of me. "So what are you going to do now?" Just then her phone rang. Viola glanced at it and didn't answer. "More debt collectors," Mrs. Chen asked. "How much do you actually owe?" Viola didn't even know. She opened a dozen apps and added up all the amounts. Mother and daughter stared at the six-figure sum, over 100,000 yuan, speechless. Mrs. Chen finally couldn't hold back and slapped her twice. "What did you do with all that money? How are you going to pay it back now? How much do I earn slaving away in a month? Are you trying to kill me?" Viola covered her face and cried. "What was I supposed to do? Why didn't you stop me back then? What good is it to talk about it now?" The two argued fiercely. I picked up my pre-packed suitcase and quietly left. The door closed behind me, shutting out all the screaming, chaos, and madness. I took a deep breath, watching the sunset slowly fall on the horizon, walking under the twilight. From now on, their affairs no longer had anything to do with me. The fireworks performance date grew closer and closer. That day, during the test firing, I stood in the middle of the open field. the light of the fireworks illuminated my face, and I suddenly remembered the scorching pain of that day. That day, Viola secretly entered the warehouse, arbitrarily adjusted the temperature and humidity, and sent me an anonymous message luring me there. She knew I was sensitive and suspicious. She didn't need to say much, just told me there was something wrong near the warehouse, and I would definitely go to check it myself. That afternoon, Viola lurked in a corner. Only when I entered the warehouse did she suddenly rush out, locking the door from the outside with an iron chain. I saw her silhouette and screamed, "What are you doing? Let me out!" She grinned fiercely. "From childhood until now, you've always suppressed me. Just because you're a little better at academics, you act superior. If it weren't for you, Jian Ming and I would have been together a long time ago. Did you stop me before because you were jealous? You didn't want me to be with a celebrity, afraid I'd live a better life than you. What nonsense are you talking about, Viola? I'm your sister, I did it for your own good. Going to a fan meeting can lead to being with Jian Ming. With so many fans, he might not even remember your name. Snap out of it. Stop acting like the older sister. Haven't you controlled me enough all these years? For my own good, you say? Honestly, you shouldn't have stopped me from going to that fan signing. You're so selfish." Suddenly, a sizzling sound of burning fire came from the corner. It was then that I realized the temperature and humidity in the warehouse had been adjusted. Fear crept into my heart. I frantically pounded on the door. "Stop messing around. This is deadly." Viola laughed like a madwoman. "Yes, I know. I want you to die. You ruined my life. I want you to pay with your life." The fireworks in the warehouse began to ignite on their own. Flames immediately flared up. The fire clung to me, burning my flesh. My hands gradually weakened, my pounding on the door becoming slower and slower until I no longer had the strength to lift them. Someone outside discovered the fire and called the firefighters. Shouts for help echoed in the distance. Before I died, the last image I saw was Viola standing under a tree hundreds of meters from the warehouse. She covered her face and cried, her lips moving. I couldn't hear clearly, but by her mouth she was saying, "Serves you right." Almost everyone knew that Viola was buried in debt because of her idol obsession. Her mother, my stepmother, set her sights on the house my father had left me. That house was bought by my birth parents after they married. I had lived there for over 20 years and had never been willing to move out, partly for this reason. Mrs. Chen didn't know that before my father passed away, he had left a notarized will, transferring full ownership of the house to me. That year, I told my father, "I don't need money, just the house." I knew that if I kept the money, it would be completely spent by Viola and her mother in just a few years. I had someone send a copy of the will to the house and announced that if they didn't move out within 3 days, I would sue them. Mrs. Chen called me repeatedly. I didn't answer. Then she started texting, "I've treated you like my own daughter for so many years. How can you be so heartless? Your sister is in despair. If you won't help her, then fine, but why add fuel to the fire? Don't you feel guilty towards your deceased father? I hate you all. Because of you, I've struggled like this for so many years, and in the end, I'm left with nothing but debt. I'm suffering too much." I didn't reply to any of her messages. 3 days later, Viola and her mother moved out of the house. I decided to wait for things to calm down before returning, to avoid any impulsive revenge from them. At the warehouse, I hired people to conduct regular inspections. A week before the fireworks test, a colleague asked if I had thought of a name yet. I looked up at the clusters of fireworks blooming in the sky, recalling the searing pain of that day. That was the inspiration for this fireworks design. I named it Rebirth. In the ink-black smoke, brilliant golden rays bloomed, layer upon layer, spreading vitality. My colleague exclaimed, "That name is perfect." After the performance, my assistant whispered to me, "Someone tried to secretly enter the warehouse. Security apprehended her and called the police." I raised an eyebrow. "Who was it?" "A young woman. I don't know what she intended to do. Let the police handle it." Later, I became a nationally renowned fireworks designer. Many firework displays across the country were my creations. I traveled through various cities. Sometimes, when I heard the name Jian Ming again, my mind would briefly wander. After being abandoned by his company, he completely lost his job, living a dissolute life, and was arrested several times. Now, he works as a wine server in a restaurant where anyone can order him around. He didn't recognize me, even calling me president manager. As he walked past, he secretly slipped me a room key card. I simply nodded slightly, without even glancing at him. Turning a corner, I casually threw the room card into the trash. As for Viola and her mother, they disappeared completely the day I moved out of the house. After that, I changed my number, and even the monthly harassment calls stopped. Only during Lunar New Year would I hear relatives spread some rumors of unknown truth that Viola clung to a married middle-aged man with children, wanting him to help pay off her debts. But the man only saw her as entertainment, not wanting her to become a golden goose, so he deceived her a few times. Then his wife found them, and the mother and daughter had to hide and flee. I heard they had fled south. 5 years later, someone bought the rights to Rebirth. I stood on the high floor of a building. Below was an empty lot for fireworks, and above, the sky shimmered with fireworks. My partner asked, "I really like this fireworks design. Why did you name it Rebirth?" H.